I'm Duncan McLeod, and this is the TechCentral Show. My guest today is Nomvuyiso Batyi. She is CEO of the Association of Comms and Technology, or ACT for short. That's the industry body that represents South Africa's six largest telecommunications operators, among them Vodacom, MTN, Telkom, Cell C, and others. Now, Nomvuyiso is joining me from our Johannesburg studio. She previously served as a councillor at Icasa and also as a special advisor to successive communications ministers. So she's seen regulation and policy from every side of the table. She's just come out of Icasa's public hearings on the draft rapid deployment guidelines, where the industry delivered what it seems like a near unanimous thumbs down to rules meant to speed up broadband infrastructure rollout in South Africa. These rules, of course, have been a very long time coming. Nomvuyiso, welcome to the show. It's good to see you again.
Thank you, Duncan, and thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you, anything related to ICT. So thank you for having me here.
My pleasure. Now, rapid deployment rules. Tell me about the history to this. I know there's a very long history that this has been a contentious issue for many, many years. I think I was first writing about it a decade or more ago. What's taken so long to get to this point, and what has actually happened now?
I won't bore you with the history, because I actually realized that the rapid deployment guidelines, when you were talking about my history, they started when I was at Icasa. This is around 2008, 2009, 2010, 11, 12, those years. And essentially, that's how it's been around forever. It's like we have not been able to find an answer that says how should network operators, how should fibre operators, how should any other person that wants to roll out networks in municipalities, how should rules be applicable to them? How do we create a uniform system that is predictable for everyone that wants to invest at local municipal level? That's what, in a nutshell, the rapid deployment guidelines have been. So recently, the couple of things that have happened, for instance, Minister McLeod early this year in April did publish a draft policy directive to Icasa, actually telling Icasa to consider doing the very same draft regulations and consult on it. So it's these things happening in tandem, and then Icasa then published these draft regulations for comments and consultation. So that's what has been recently happening, and we're encouraged by that.
What has taken so long? I know there was a lot of instability in the ministry for many years. At one point, the ministry was turning over a minister every 12 months, or even more frequently than that, I think, at one point. And of course, there are many aspects of government involved in this. It's not only national government, it's local government as well. Is all of that complexity and the instability in the department what led to these extended delays in getting these regulations published?
I'll say yes and no. And when I say yes to the reasons that you said, then no, in the sense that you may recall that there's been a number of court cases dealing with the very same issue of rapid deployment up until they went to Constitutional Court. And they've actually cemented the role of Icasa as to what role Icasa plays in this regard, that Icasa has to come up with reasonable rules that will be applied to municipalities as well to homeowners if it gets to that level, but they should not be unreasonable. And that is the part that I think we haven't gotten right at this point. But from a national government point of view, the reasons that you said, changes of ministers and all that. But I must say the Department of COGTA and DCDT and some people in the sector, they've been quite active trying to find a solution insofar as the overarching policy. As you know, policy is as good as implementation. So that part, I think they have managed to find each other. The part that I think is missing is the role of municipalities vis-a-vis Icasa, because I'll say this. This is what I said to the team. It's well and good that Icasa is consulting with network operators, with fibre operators, tower cos, and related parties. I think the work that needs to be done is with entities such as South African Local Government Association, SALGA, because those are the people that oversee municipalities. And we know how municipalities are quite, some of there are those that are not so established. So they need a voice that will say how should these rules be applicable to them. And I think that's the part for me that is missing. And we've gone into detail and explained to Icasa, even in those instances, because of the instability in local government, how they should even consider setting up dispute resolution mechanisms. And I think they totally misunderstood us what we meant there, but we are going to clarify in our written response as well as to what is it that we foresee them doing. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the process from here? Icasa's, there's a draft set of regulations out. And Icasa's just had public hearings on this topic. What happens next? The public hearings have happened. You're going to send through written submissions. Presumably many other industry stakeholders are going to do the same. What happens next? Does Icasa produce another set of draft regulations, or does it go directly to final regulations from here?
So I think for fairness and clarity, agreed, they're going to do that. They're going to take into account what was said before the hearings, the written representation, what was said at the hearings, and now the letter that they sent us today. They're going to take all of those into account. But I think the part that is the most important is the step of how do they ensure that local government is involved. I think that's the hard work. That's the work that they need to do as Icasa to be able to ensure that there's buy-in at that level. And they can do that. I know Icasa is an independent entity and all those things. They can do that from an influence point of view, utilizing their line ministry, right? Because there is this intergovernmental framework that you can use to actually be able to influence decisions within government. And you can't just come up with a regulation and fold your arms. So we're looking at Icasa saying you cannot just develop regulations without talking to all the parties. And I say talk, don't do what you do with us, wherein you just publish a regulation and hope somebody's going to find it. Engage, have conversations. Maybe we got something wrong, right, as a sector. Maybe there's something that we're missing. How do we address issues of backlog? Are there systematic issues in those municipalities? How does government ensure that there is skilling of dealing with such application? Because not all municipalities are the same. So this I think for me it's an opportunity for Icasa to showcase a different side of collaboration within the authority itself, Icasa, and the other associations such as the South African Local Government Association. It's something that they should be excited about.
I think everyone agrees that securing municipal way leaves, for example, to trench some fibre down a street, is one of the principal bottlenecks that the industry is facing in deploying infrastructure. But municipalities are not Icasa licensees, as you've pointed out. There are a lot of other role players involved. What legal power does Icasa have to get these municipalities to comply? It's all well and good producing these regulations, but if Icasa doesn't have a stick that it can use to enforce them, if the municipalities don't, for example, provide a way leaf to a telecommunications operator, are we on a hiding to nothing here? Is it just going to be a case of, well, here's a bunch of regulations and no one's actually going to do anything about it?
Actually, I want to go back to the question that you started with as to what has happened in recent years. There has been an amendment of the Electronic Communications Act, Section 21 thereof. And the Section 21 of the ECA actually empowers Icasa to do exactly what we've been talking about. And over and above, go to municipalities and almost act as an advisory role to the municipalities. And let me just perhaps check. I want to check to and read it to you how the Section 21 reads like, so that you understand what it means. So it's the Section 21 amendment, which seeks to ensure a uniform approach across municipalities at a reasonable fee. The draft bylaw that Section 21, Section 2 of the ECA says the regulations must provide procedures and processes for obtaining any necessary permit, authorization, approval, or other governmental authority, including the criteria necessary to qualify for such permit, authorization, approval, or other governmental authority. So that's why I'm saying the work it's not about just writing regulations to Icasa. Icasa needs to be able to have conversations across all sectors of government, because this section actually tells Icasa that you are empowered to make these regulations, but you must take into account as to what is happening at local government, how things need to be rolled out, what systems do they have. So you cannot only listen to network operators, and that's the beauty of it, that you cannot sit in center and hope that people are going to figure out. Let's say Hermanus, the example that we made earlier, the municipality in Hermanus will know what you're seeking to achieve. There's this needs more a hands-on approach. That's how Section 21 reads like. And I know that a lot of people may have missed the amendment, but this is the amendment that happened about 5 years ago. So it is there. Yeah.
Okay. So you're confident that once these regulations are in place, that enforcement is going to be possible?
Yes, I'm just saying I am very confident. That is if Icasa implements it according to the spirit of the ECA, because the ECA tells them what needs to be done. And it's a mistake that we make in the sector, that we assume that everyone knows what is in the Electronic Communications Act, whereas this regulation, this section of the Act tells you that you must go on a collaborative spirit. You must seek to make sure that those people understand. You need to ensure that there's a reasonable fee that is set up. It's not a question of ticking off a box. This is where you need a proper job that needs to be done across all 9 provinces, across no matter how many municipalities that we have. And the only road is through SALGA in my mind.
Cool that you had some objections to the fact that municipalities weren't facing any punishment, if I can use that word, for not complying with the regulations. What is it exactly that you're proposing that if municipalities fail to provide a way leaf, for example, in a designated time? What is the sort of carrot and stick approach that you're advocating for in these regulations?
So for us, we're saying for starters, look at a dispute resolution mechanism, because in some instances, it's an issue of capacity, right? And it comes to municipalities. So that there must be that mechanism wherein if municipality refuses, what is my fall position that I need to go to as a network operator or as a fibre person? And currently there is a gap there, right? The assumption that is made is that there's going to be a dispute between licensees or between a licensee and the person that is digging the trench. So for us, that's what we proposed to Icasa, and we said, and I know they've given us more homework as of today, and we're going to go into detail and demonstrate how it should be done. And actually, we even said to them, look, Icasa, you can learn with other regulators such as Nersa. Nersa, and I'm not saying it's a great blueprint, but it's a blueprint that seems to work when it comes to them setting the tariffs for municipalities, insofar as electricity and ESCOM. That relationship Nersa has really, I live in Tshwane, really tries its best to find municipalities where they are. And then you would have seen Nersa, even strange thing that they will even involve people like political parties, but the level of commitment that they go through when it comes to consultation to make sure that their regulations are understood, even if they are, let's say they lose in court, they go the extra mile to make sure that municipalities understand them. And that's what we're asking Icasa to do, essentially.
How big is the challenge for operators with South Africa's municipalities? I know a lot of our municipalities, could even be the majority of them, have qualified audits. A lot of them are dysfunctional, including even Johannesburg, it seems these days. Are your members finding it difficult to deal with most municipalities, or is it just one or two here and there where you have difficulty?
I'm going to say, this is a legacy issue that even other industry associations have been trying to resolve on behalf not only our members, even, let's say, tower companies and fibre companies, that not all municipalities are the same. Municipalities are fraught with their own challenges, right? And as a result, it's been quite a challenge insofar as, especially to deploy where lives, especially going into municipalities that are, I say smaller and not that quite established. However, you would have seen recently, especially I think Telkom, and I just forgot the second fibre company, that have actually challenged municipalities and won. And did they change the behavior? No. So in my mind, because the behavior is so difficult to change, you need to do, and it's a lot of hard work. The regulator, it's up to the regulator. It's how, and that's what I'm saying, it's how for me, when we're looking at somebody like Nersa, they really go out there, they make their point, and we're saying, Icasa, just do something similar.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It sounds to me, though, that there's still quite some ground to cover here. When do you think, realistically, this process is likely to be wrapped up and we'll have final regulations in place?
Realistically, 24 months. If Icasa is serious, yes, if Icasa does have a plan that says we're going to go to municipalities, if it almost like how you would, and Icasa is good at this, and I must just give them credit for this. They know how to do this when it comes to during an election period. They know how to do it. That's the strange part. But when it comes to the telco sector, it's a bit of a struggle, right? And I think if they give themselves the period of 2 years, because municipalities are different, they can make sure that there's a product that people will understand. And it will not be completely be resolved. And I say this, Duncan, because municipalities, some do not even paying Eskom, but the rules are there. There's consultation. Just give yourself time. Don't say it's hard and then says, oh, it is. I've just have a regulation. They must just apply it. Doesn't work that way.
I want to talk about this infrastructure database that Icasa has proposed, I think in these draft regulations, which would really map out where all of the infrastructure in South Africa lies. And I know ACT has had some objections to that, and it's actually beyond ACT as well. There've been concerns about competitor information, competitor sensitive information being shared, but also, the potential for construction mafias to get hold of this stuff, and potential national security issues as well. Maybe just walk through what the concerns are there and what you'd like to see changed.
So for us, having a GIS map, great idea, but to the extent and the detail that Icasa is proposing, serious problems, in the sense that there are issues, let's say from a competition point of view, you want to be ahead of your competitor, and Icasa will be publishing this info in the manner that they've proposing that they want to have. And I never even thought about this issue of construction mafia. But if you're looking at the risk that is out there for people that are in competition, that their information will just be readily available to anyone, I think Icasa needs to put safeguards in place for that GIS information to be made available. They need to have access. They need to give guarantees that it will not be used for unintended purposes. And that's what we were cautioning Icasa on, that we're not saying no, definitely no to the GIS, but the detail in which they are just be seeking, that's where the problems are arising. And the reasons that I've said so far as competitor information being widely available in that regard. Had Icasa said we want the information, let's say for purposes of seeing the gaps as to from a broadband connectivity point of view, granted, that's more, that's like taking maps that are already, if you go to any of my members' website, you'll see who is there in the market, where are they playing. That's normal information, but it's the detail. That's where we have problems and challenges with them. Yeah.
So if Icasa were to give guarantees that the data is going to be protected, would you be happier, or would you rather it be a less granular set of data?
Less granular. Because you never know whose hand it's going to land on. With issues of cybersecurity concerns, less granular detail, because you're not, it's, they say when you request information, this is what Hopia tells us. When you request information, it has to be aligned to the reason why you're seeking the information. The information that you are seeking is almost putting the person at a risk, almost like an overreach, then it becomes problematic.
Okay, and of course we know that government has been the victim of cybersecurity attacks over the last little while, and government hasn't been very good at protecting its information systems. So I suppose for the industry, there'd be a concern that if Icasa was to house something like this, that even if they were protecting it in some way, that nefarious actors could get access to it somehow. I'd be interested in your view, though. I mean, there are some open source data sets out there that show, for example, fiber infrastructure, terrestrial fiber infrastructure across Africa. Steve Song did a famous map, and there's more detailed ones now of submarine cable infrastructure. Is there an argument to be made, perhaps at some level, perhaps not at an extremely granular level, but at some level, this data should just be made available publicly, and then developers could take it and build a website with a map showing where the infrastructure is available in South Africa as a useful tool for consumers?
Definitely. And I'll be honest with you, even the ITU has a similar program that they are doing across Africa. And ironically, South Africa is a bit dark, and because there was no one that was collecting the data up until recently. The work that Steve Song has been doing, which as well we did make inputs to, but that is more, and I'll say that is more for practical purposes, right? It's more about mapping as to see where the gaps are, which is good, right? Now, the level that Icasa requires, we're not even sure in some instances why. Do you see? The question becomes the why. It's like we're sitting there, we're like, oh, we need this, and then like, okay, why? So it's the why for us that is not clear. You don't need that level of detail, but we definitely requiring a GIS map, spot on. We even said so, like we think it is necessary. So that to avoid issues of duplication of infrastructure, to know who's doing what, where. Great idea, but not to the granular detail that they require. Yeah. I mean, how does the industry deal with that at the moment? I mean, there's a lot of rules around competition in the sector, and I think everyone's a little bit cautious about not getting investigated by the Competition Commission for doing things you're not allowed to do. I mean, to what extent does the industry actually share this sort of level of information regarding where infrastructure is today? And I mean, it must be necessary for organizations in their planning to decide where they're going to deploy next, to know where infrastructure exists beyond their own. So I'll say for now, let's say if you are asking for the information, it will be, in my case as ACT, it will be more aggregated. So data, we have to, in terms of the competition law, appoint an independent third party that will be handling that data. It won't be, let's say, ACT in itself, because it has to be another person who will ensure that the information has been segregated as to who it is. And then it needs to be anonymized as best as possible so that you don't necessarily show, there is cell C, it has to be anonymized as best as possible. So that is how we're dealing with it, a sectoral point of view. I have not necessarily seen from a regulator point of view how they will deal with the information, but I've seen with the Steve Song how he's done it. He's done it so well that he has given it the level of anonymity that is required. But you will know, for instance, I always say to people, you know who is available, where you'll just know by the trends as to who is where, if you're able to just look at the publicly available information. But if there's somebody else using it, they have to anonymize it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nomvuyiso, while I've got you in the hot seat there, and before I let you go, apart from rapid deployment regulations, what are some of what are the top three things that are keeping you busy at the moment? What's keeping your mind exercised, and what are your members demanding of you at the moment?
I say RICA. So currently our challenges are RICA. We just finalized the framework agreement for RICA when it comes to all my members, as to how SIM card verification of persons needs to be done. That's what keeps me awake. Top of mind is the license renewal process that Icasa needs to do by 2028. From a certainty point of view, investor certainty, regulatory certainty as to what process Icasa will be following. That's what keeps me awake. As well, there are other issues that keep coming here and there. So, for instance, the whole issue of the end user and subscriber charter regulations that Icasa published with very vague reasons documents. That's what has been keeping me awake at night. Then the last big boo-boo is the Electronic Communications Act amendment that is before the Portfolio Committee. That legislation shouldn't have gone to the Portfolio Committee. We were not consulted on it, especially the version that is there. It's actually in a very embarrassing document as it stands. So we know that we were consulted on previous versions before, but the version that is there, the one that I think I once was interviewed by TechCentral about it. I had to write it something because I didn't even know that there was a part about MVNOs. I didn't know that. I didn't know that after we've made so much commentary to the TCTT about using outdated data of the Competition Commission, so they used the MSID, the document that was published when it came to data prices of that time, and ignoring the current report of the Competition Commission when it comes to affordability of services. So there's just so many problems that are there. So those are the four main things that are keeping me awake at night. And I know there's others, but those ones are something that are within our control. Yeah.
So with all of that on your plate, Nomvuyiso, I'm surprised you still managed to have a big smile on your face. But as you said, you do love the sector, so lots to keep you busy.
Love it. No, look, I actually say I enjoy what I do. I love the sector. I love looking at solutions. And and I always say regulation is a reiterative thing. There's never a definite right answer, but somewhere, somehow you're going to find a right answer. So for me, it's just quite an exciting time. Yeah.
Nomvuyiso Batyi is CEO of the Association of Comms and Technology, whose members include South Africa's largest telecommunications operators. It's always a pleasure to host you on the TechCentral Show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's always nice talking to you, Duncan, and having your team. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.